Eventually, Brad started hearing the television talk to him. He would be sitting in a chair, and so it was no longer a matter of withdrawal, but it was also a matter of hearing voices. My story is about a mother and son's journey through life and death. He was just a pure delight as a child, loved animals, was excellent in sports. As he became a teenager, he became sort of erratic in his behavior. He was a very loving, kind, and intelligent child and person, but there would be times where he would be very withdrawn. So his dad and I sought help, and he said that the professional said, well, he's just immature. He did go into college, but he had, I guess you could call it like a meltdown. From there, I would say we had approximately 11 psychiatrists before we finally got a diagnosis, because we had him for about 4 years after college, and that whole time he would be sometimes our wonderful son, and then sometimes very erratic. There were times, I would say, when Brad was about 16, where he would lay around and just sort of be withdrawn. And that's not like him. He was very social, but his personality, I would say, seemed to change around 16. Really, it became a crisis for us when he became belligerent, and he would just do things that were very out of character. We were in and out of psychiatrists. We saw private psychiatrists. We saw a psychiatrist at the University of Michigan. To tell you the truth, I think I've blocked out a lot of those painful memories, because they're pretty painful. All I know is we kept loving our son and trying to get him help. He started using marijuana, and there were a couple times where he used LSD. So then we had sort of a discord at that time, because all the psychiatrists and social workers thought it was a substance abuse problem. And we, as parents, were taught to give him tough love. In other words, when he started breaking rules, or when he didn't cooperate or became belligerent to us, then we were to use tough love. That type of parenting worked very well with our older son, who was indeed a substance abuse. But Brad was very compliant. He wanted to get better also. So he got off drugs, he stopped using, and yet this behavior continued. It got to the point where eventually Brad started hearing the television talk to him. He would be sitting in a chair, so it was no longer a matter of withdrawal, but it was also a matter of hearing voices. So I guess I'm trying to give an idea of the symptoms of bipolar. So in bipolar, a person may have a period of stability. They can be highly functioning, but that can evolve into mania, which becomes, I'm going to plan a New Year's Eve party. I'm going to bring in shrimp. I'm going to have all these kids. It's going to be a wild party. Well, that was very out of character for Brad. So he would evolve into mania. So his specific bipolar condition was actually schizoaffective. So schizo, of course, is synonym, or is the first part of schizophrenia, and schizophrenia typically refers to split personality, where people are hearing voices. That's schizophrenia. Brad's was schizoaffective. His voices were a part of his emotional, not so much acting out, but more emotional. He became more acting out when he was in the manic phase. It was horrible, because Brad was going to be like, I envisioned him becoming an athlete, highly academic. He was interested in computers, but he also wanted to be a sports journalist. And I thought, oh my gosh, he could do anything, because he was smart, he was talented. But as this all happened, at that time, I found solace in a born-again Christian church. I was born a Catholic, but was not finding any sort of comfort in that particular church. So my coping mechanism was prayer, and just throwing out as much love as we could, seeking as many resources as we could. And then when he became medicated, Brad was, like I said, athletic and svelte and, was in good shape. But once he started becoming medicated, especially the beginning lithium, and then he went on to more psychosomatic or psychometric or some other kind of drug. So he started gaining a lot of weight, and that was very hurtful to me because that wasn't him. It was March 23, 2003. Brad was 29, and he was living in an apartment in Holly. So he was living in a house in Holly. He was starting to becoming manic. His meds were not stabilizing him, and he wasn't wanting to take his meds. So he was starting to go through the manic stage. He was becoming belligerent. He was with some friends at their apartment, and they were worried about him, as was his fiance. His friends were worried about him. He must have been becoming belligerent. And they called 911 because they wanted him to get help. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I do know that we tried to get in touch with him. His psychiatrist also tried to get in touch with him. His fiance tried to get in touch with him. He didn't want to talk to anybody. And the cops came in, and I don't know what they did. They probably threatened him or whatever they did. There was a glass tabletop that he either fell on or that somehow crashed, and they wound up. He was suffocated. He was position. They call his cause of death. It was called positional suffocation. So the cops need him, put his hands behind him, and he couldn't breathe, and he died. It happened within a couple hours. I mean, we had enough time he was alive when we left Flint or Holly, and then he was dead by the time we got home, I guess. I'm not sure, maybe an hour after we got home. I didn't believe it. I thought, I prayed, I said he's going to be okay. But I had the presence of mind to ask a girlfriend to come over and take care of the little one, to take care of Scott. My ex and I just went up there, and I remember looking in the window. They wouldn't let us touch him or see him other than through a window. I knew we'd have to have a funeral. Brad had 2 funerals, one in Holly, where he lived and where his friends were and where his doctor was and the rehab people. We had a mass in the Catholic Church in Holly. But after that, I really, really became isolated. I mean, I just wanted to live in my closet. Eventually, I was assigned a Stephen minister who was there for me, helped get me back into life. She said, well, what's one of your favorite things to do? And I said, well, I love book clubs. So she would go with me to book clubs. She looked for book clubs. I have to say, on the other hand, I needed help from my church. I stopped going to church because I would go there and people would say, oh, I'm so sorry. Is there anything I could do? And I would actually give them some ideas of what to do. I said, well, I would really like to be a part of your book club, or I would like to, you can come over and talk or have a cup of tea, invite me for tea. Nobody did anything. All I needed was somebody to sit and let me cry. Not tell me that he's in a better place. Not tell me that, oh, you're going to get over this. You'll be better. And my mom would say, oh, you're strong. You'll get over this. I mean, people say the most inane things that are nothing but hurtful. Probably the thing that helped me the most was writing. I had to write. I had to write a book that basically buried all my grief, all my sadness, all my emotions. They're right there, very raw in my book. And I felt if people felt like I felt, they would know how to act towards others. And so in this day and age, when we have so many children who are killed by guns, I'm so anti-gun. I feel that friends and family of those people would be helped by my book. There will always be a wound, but wounds heal. They don't disappear. That would be advice for a person grieving. For a person who's grieving, know that, yes, you will always have pain. You will always have memories. You will never forget your child. But the pain does get better because wounds heal. So many parents have to walk the journey that I walked. And so I would be open to any kind of a connection that anybody feels would be helpful.